Death is a constant companion sitting shotgun just to the left of you on your ride through Tokyo Ghoul. In episode 1, in the guise of a sleek, unassuming shy girl. In episode 2, it's a reserved, apathetic predator. Notably, in episode 3 is the first time in the series Kaneki is given a break to unwind and not quite have to look over his shoulder, to feel kinship, and for the audience to take a breather. That episode ends where this one begins. An elegant, non-threatening stranger wanders into Ward 20's coffee house. To Sakiyama Shu. He is eccentric as he is ridiculous. With his constant preening and posturing, he makes the anime feel more like a full-blown shonen ai. Thankfully, Sakiyama Shu has more in common with Patrick Bateman from American Psycho than anyone from Oran Club or Loveless. Sakiyama is well-dressed in high society, and the first real break from this is when Kaneki cuts himself, and Sakiyama Shu cleans the wound with a napkin, only to steal it away and bury his nose into it. And well, I don't know how else to describe this. He orgasms violently? I mean, between the body spasms and the eye bulges, I'm not sure what else to call it. In this episode, we expand into the 13th ward that seems to be overflowing with socialites, with nothing better to do than to indulge in hedonism, led by Sakiyama, who is intrigued by Taneki, who is a ghoul who smells like a human, and ultimately makes him a star at his next demented dinner theater, which is a mix of a ball and an arena. It's a high-tier fight club / snuff film. Sakiyama's major difference between Patrick Bateman from American Psycho is Patrick's dementia is isolated to just him. Sakiyama is not only part of a demented high society, but he seems to run the madhouse. A very common theme in Tokyo Ghoul is the old adage, don't judge a book by its cover. There are particularly unsettling characters like Mr. Uta, who are perfectly normal, whereas to Sakiyama, Lady Rez, Nishao outwardly all seem harmless enough when you meet them. Perhaps this is a point made by the writer, is that the truly weak strain to look threatening, whereas the truly dangerous have to strain to not. Sakiyama's arena ballroom conjures up the kind of mental images that might be reserved for Eyes Wide Shut, or more on point for animes like Speedgrapher. The feeding comes off as more of a stand-in for sex. Even one of the beasts unleashed in the arena, Toro, refers to his handler as... We're introduced into a new character named Atari, who's this gossip that runs a bar. I rather approve of this approach. It allows the exposition dump not only to be more juicy, but unreliable and means the writers aren't married to anything she says. Kaneki ultimately is saved by Sakiyama plotting to feed on Kaneki all by himself, upon finding out that he's only a one-eyed ghoul, and he's a rare delicacy he intends to share with no one. I found it noteworthy that the crowd, despite all this, were repulsed at the initial idea of feeding on one of their own, until they could smell Kaneki, putting him in a very uncomfortable role of having the ghoul's flaws of needing to feed on humans, but smelling like something very edible to all his peers. Sometimes life just isn't fair. So till next time, don't ask why a field burns, or a plague spreads, for no good reason.